Did you know that giants truly existed on Earth and that the Bible speaks of them in a clear and shocking way? But here's what no one tells you: these giants are not just legends or ancient history. There's a dark secret about the Nephilim, and the truth might change everything you think you know about the past and even the future. In this video, we'll reveal the most surprising evidence about the giants of the Bible, who they were, where they came from, and why they might still be more important than you realize. We'll dive into conspiracies, hidden mysteries, and even what this means for the last days. But here's the challenge: stay until the end to uncover the most unexpected connection between the giants of old and our present day. It's a truth so impactful you'll never see the Bible the same way again. These mysterious beings known as the Nephilim appear in one of the most enigmatic passages of Scripture. Before we understand who they were, let's go straight to the source, Genesis 6 verse 4, which says, "There were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of God came in unto the daughters of men, and they bare children to them. The same became mighty men, which were of old, men of renown." This single verse makes us ask, who were these sons of God? How were these giants described as mighty men and men of renown born? The term Nephilim, which can be translated as fallen ones or those who were cast down, carries a weight far beyond mere curiosity. Many believe the sons of God were fallen angels, beings that defied divine order, and by mingling with the daughters of men produced a unique and terrifying lineage. Were they just a metaphor, or did they truly walk the earth, altering the course of humanity? Now imagine a world consumed by corruption. Genesis 6 verse 5 reveals that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every imagination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. It wasn't just humanity that had gone astray. The presence of the Nephilim intensified this corruption, becoming a symbol of a distorted creation. But what happened to these giants when the flood came? Were they all destroyed, or did their influence persist, reappearing in later times? The verse offers an intriguing clue: there were giants in those days and also after that. This mystery is precisely where we'll dive deeper in the next topic, exploring the giants before and after the great divine judgment. After all, what really became of the Nephilim? The flood marked a moment of destruction and rebirth, but did it truly erase all traces of the Bible's giants? In Genesis 7 verse 23 we are told, "And every living substance was destroyed, and Noah only remained alive, and they that were with him in the ark." This suggests that the Nephilim, the giants who walked the earth in those days, should have been completely wiped out. However, a mystery looms over this narrative. How then can we explain the reappearance of giants in later times? Numbers 13:33 reveals that the spies sent to the promised land saw giants and reported, "And there we saw the giants, the sons of Enoch, which come of the giants, and we were in our own sight as grasshoppers." Where did these giants come from after the flood? A fascinating theory points to a possible lineage of giants connected to the descendants of Ham, Noah's son. This idea suggests that the corruption that marked the pre-flood world may have re-emerged through certain peoples, but it doesn't stop there. Deuteronomy 2 verses 10 to 11 speaks of the Imim and the Rims, giant tribes inhabiting the region of Canaan, described as great many and tall as the Anakims. This raises the question of whether the judgment of the flood was solely about flesh and blood, or if something deeper, something spiritual, allowed the seed of the Nephilim to return to earth. Scripture leaves no doubt that these giants posed a constant challenge to God's people. But who were these tribes, and how did they spread across the ancient world? As the people of Israel approached the promised land, they encountered an unexpected obstacle. Entire tribes of giants scattered across those territories in Joshua 11:21-22 we read that Joshua cut off the Anakims from the mountains from Hebron, from Dare, from Anab, and from all the mountains of Judah, and from all the mountains of Israel. Joshua destroyed them utterly with their cities. Who were these Anakims, and why were they so feared? These giants were no ordinary people. Deuteronomy 2 verse 20-21 mentions the Imim, the Zamzum, and the Rhymes described as great, many, and tall. The Bible portrays these tribes as remnants of a peculiar lineage that directly opposed God's plans for the establishment of Israel. Their impressive physical characteristics and imposing presence turned the promised land into a true battleground, both spiritual and physical. Moreover, the geographical locations of these tribes are intriguing. They occupied strategic regions such as Bashan, Canaan, and mountainous areas, reinforcing the idea that their lands were heavily fortified. Numbers 13:28 highlights the spies' report describing cities walled and very great, inhabited by peoples who seemed insurmountable. These accounts emphasize not only the size and strength of the giants but also the fear they instilled, even in the most seasoned warriors. However, these battles were not merely military. Each confrontation with these giant tribes represented a spiritual struggle, a declaration that God was the true Lord of the land. But there was one king, a giant among giants, who became the symbol of this resistance among all the giants mentioned in the Bible. Few are as enigmatic as Og, the king of Bashan. In Deuteronomy 3 verse 11 we find a fascinating detail about him, for only Og, king of Bashan, remained of the remnant of giants. Behold, his bedstead was a bedstead of iron. 9 cubits was the length thereof, and 4 cubits the breadth of it, after the cubit of a man. In modern measurements this equates to approximately 13.5 feet, 4 m long, and 6 feet 1.8 m wide. A man requiring a bed of such dimensions was anything but ordinary. Og was not only a giant in stature but also in influence. He ruled over Bashan, a fertile and strategic land that was part of the inheritance promised to Israel. His presence and dominion symbolized a direct obstacle to the fulfillment of God's plan. In Joshua 12:4-6 we read that Og, king of Bashan, who was of the remnant of the giants, was defeated in battle, and his territory was given to the people of Israel. His defeat was not just a military victory, it marked the triumph of the divine covenant over a lineage that defied God's purposes. Why does the Bible dedicate so much attention to this king? Represents the persistence of giants after the flood and the spiritual resistance faced by God's people. Throughout their journey, he serves as a vivid example of how these giants were not just physical enemies but symbols of opposition to the divine plan. However, the story of the giants doesn't end with Og. They continue to appear in pivotal moments of biblical narrative. Among all the stories involving giants, none is as iconic as the confrontation between David and Goliath. Before delving into this battle, let's look at the text in 1 Samuel 17:4, where Goliath is introduced. And there went out a champion out of the camp of the Philistines, named Goliath of Gath, whose height was 6 cubits and a span. This equates to approximately 9.5 ft 3 m tall, a true colossus who struck terror into the armies of Israel. Goliath was not alone in his lineage. 2 Samuel 215-222 recounts the stories of his brothers, other giants who later confronted Israel. These men, also descendants of the giants, continued to challenge God's people even after Goliath's fall. Among them was one who had 6 fingers on each hand and 6 toes on each foot, a detail that underscores just how unique and feared this lineage was. The confrontation between David and Goliath, however, goes beyond physical combat. David, a young shepherd with no military experience, defeated the giant armed only with a sling and 5 smooth stones. His victory was a testament that human strength is no match for God's power when His will is at work. The battle symbolizes the defeat of both physical and spiritual opposition to God's plan. Why then did giants continue to appear? What was the significance of this constant struggle between Israel and the descendants of the Nephilim? The idea of giants is not exclusive to the biblical narrative. Across cultures worldwide we find legends and stories of immense beings who shaped humanity's past. In Greek mythology, the Titans were described as giants who challenged the gods of Olympus. In Norse sagas, the Jotnar, colossal beings, inhabited the edges of the world. Even among the indigenous peoples of the Americas, there are accounts of giants roaming the land in ancient times. These global legends raise a fascinating question: could these stories be echoes of a greater truth? Archaeology, in turn, provides intriguing clues. In various parts of the world, discoveries of unusual bones and megalithic structures challenge conventional explanations. Sites like Stonehenge, the Egyptian pyramids, and the ruins of Baalbek are often linked to theories involving giants due to the immense size and weight of the stones used in their construction. Who could have built these structures? Could these biblical titans have played a role? Even more intriguing are reports of archaeological findings pointing to giant skeletons. Although many of these accounts are disputed or discredited, they persist, fueling the curiosity of both scholars and lay people. Were these the bones of ancient Nephilim or their descendants, or were they mere hoaxes or misinterpretations? The Bible suggests that giants were real, but the extent of their history remains uncertain. The connection between biblical giants and global legends leads to a crucial question: what really happened to these beings? How did the battles described in Scripture contribute to their disappearance? The giants of the Bible, who once walked among men and challenged God's plans, seem to have vanished from history in a mysterious way. But how did this happen? In Joshua 11 verse 21 to 22 we read that Joshua cut off the Anakims from the mountains. Joshua destroyed them utterly with their cities. This narrative reveals that Israel was an instrument of God to eradicate these lineages, which were somehow tied to corruption and spiritual rebellion. Additionally, confrontations with giants like Goliath and his brothers show that even after the conquest of Canaan, remnants of these peoples continued to surface. However, over time, biblical accounts of giants grow scarcer, suggesting that they were gradually eliminated in battles or absorbed into other